Gandang umaga sa inyong lahat. Alright. Gandang umaga po. Umaga sa inyong lahat. Meron akong monitor na katabi. Alright. Gandang umaga rin po. Yan. Yan muna tayo Kasi nakita niyo yung survey natin, di ba? We are surveying everybody who would not object to being part of the live broadcast. And then on the basis of that, we will get to invite everyone who is interested. All right? Meanwhile, attendance check. Duty para sa bayan. All right? Hindi tayo pwedeng tutulog-tulog sa... Can you see that? All right? Let me share the screen. Did you see it? All right. Attendance check. There you go. All right. Oh. Duty natin sa bayan. Of course, kung may excuse naman, walang problema. Meanwhile, so, ilan na ba tayo? Kulang na kulang pa Lalabing isa. Alright. Nag-text naman ako. Nag-email pa ako. Nilagay ko pa dyan sa Google Classroom. But, hindi natin pwedeng sisihin. Guess what? Tayo 290,000 cases na. Grabe, no? From only one case, January 30. And so, everybody's having problems. Yung ating mga janitor, alam nyo ba? Hindi naman sila tinanggalan ng trabaho. Ang ginawa ng kontraktor ay binawasan ng kalahati ang kanilang trabaho. Kasi wala nga naman pumapasok. Dahil binawasan ng kalahati, binawasan din ng kalahati ang sweldo. So, ang baba na nga ng sweldo nila, hindi kayang abutin yung mga pangangailangan sa family of 4 on the basis of ng ating minimum wage in comparison to the needs that you have for basic needs for a family of 4, kulang na nga yung sweldo, binawasan pa ng kalahati. Sa hirap naman ng buhay, di ba? And goes the same for many of our kababayan. Salamat dyan sa outbreak. Pero tuloy na nga natin. Habol na lang yung iba. So, may attendance check tayo, bahala na kayo dyan. And then, remember, tingnan nyo to, remember, meron tayong survey, alright, kita nyo yan? Survey on willingness to be part of live StreamYard and YouTube broadcast. With an S. S yan, hindi lang isa. Maraming broadcast yan, no? Dami pa nating pag-uusapan So, pakisagot ano tayo? Mentimeter. Mentimeter tayo. Tingnan natin, Announce natin yung Mentimeter for today. It's all about love. Alright? Para akong DJ. Meron tayong discussion about love. Alright? Tingin nga kay DJ, Mentimeter. Alright? Yan yung ating Mentimeter link. Ito yung ating code. Ibigay ko sa inyo. Alright, sandali. Okay, I'll give you the code. Here it is. Doon sa ating chat ng Mentimeter slides. What do you think? Alright, ano yung sagot? Tingnan natin, may sumagot na ba? Wala pa. Okay, sige, hintayin ko yung sagot niya. Is love real? Ulitin natin, Is love real? Totoo ba yan? Tama ba yung binigay ko sa inyong link? Alright, let me check your chat comments kasi baka naman mali yung link ko. Tama ba link? Okay. Ba ang link? 20 meter. Tingin nga ako. Tingnan natin Oh, meron na. Yes! Love is real. Real is love. Love is feeling. Kanta niya yan. Paul McCartney. You know, when they came here, the Beatles, I saw them. Kaya lang, ang lungkot ng mga mukha nila habang nagko-concert kasi ginulpi sila ng mga bata ni President Marcos tsaka ni Imelda Marcos. Hindi niyo alam yan, ano? Ang Beatles, when they came here for live performance, ay nadisgrasya sa mga tao ni Imelda at ni Ferdinand Marcos. Nagulpi. Wala pa. Mali ba yung binigay ko? Did I give you the wrong... Tama yung link. Bakit walang lumalabas? Baka mahina yung aking ano. Uy, nawala yung connection ko. Isa lang yung sumasagot Bali, tingnan natin yung ibang tanong. Wala pa. Interesting. Something is wrong somewhere. Well, why am I talking about love? Alright? Why am I talking about love? Alright. Nire-refresh ko nga Wala naman lumalabas. Sige nga, ulitin natin. Okay. Balik tayo sa home. Alright. Itong Mentimeter, ang gulo-gulo. Alright. Morning class, elementary logic love. Alright. Yun. Sa wakas. May lumabas. Dalawa lang ang sumagot. Wala bang sagot yung iba? Yan. Very good. No. Uy. Love is not real. Sino ka? Mr. No or Miss No? Ang nangyari sa'yo? Nabusted? Alright. Well, maganda yan. Outlier. You know, I'm all for outliers all the time. Alright. Naubos oras natin. Balikan na lang natin mamaya yan, Well, this is the other question. Pakisagot nga. At least yung tatlo, sagutin nyo nga. Yung ibang question, yung isang question. Alright. Presume one does not have any linguistic expression for love. Is it still possible for him to know what love is? Alright, you have no word for love. Yes and no. Safe answer, daya mo naman. No! No, galing naman niya. Uy, safe answer, 3. Sige, tayo lang 4 mag-usap. Ayaw nila Sige, bahala sila sa buhay nila. Dito naman tayo. One absolutely does not have any physical way of expressing love. Bago nyo sagutin, ito kasi yan Balik tayo dito, Ito kasi, linguistic expression lang pinag-uusapan natin. Pero sa totoo lang, even without linguistic expression, you can express love in the form of a painting or in the form of a piece of music or a piece of sculpture or a piece of cake that's so sweet and yummy. You give it to someone that you love on February 14, then you're expressing love. Alright? Pero ito yung next question The next question is, one does not have absolutely any physical way of expressing love as with songs or sculptures or some sweet cake or so still possible for him to know love. Can anyone know love independent of any physical way of expressing love? May sagot ba kayo dyan? Tinatamad ba kayo ngayong umaga na to? Ganda-ganda ng topic eh, love. Wala kayong interest sa higugma? Oh, okay. Dalawa nagsabi, yes. You can still, papaano? Sige nga, papaano? Uy, 3-all. Suntukan na kayo. Dumami na yung sagot. Tingnan nga natin kanina. Yes and no. Marami yes and no doon. Oo, dito konti lang sumagot eh. Pero ito, 3-all, oh. Okay, hanggang dyan lang ang tanong natin, ha? Malaking kinalaman yun sa topic for today. Alright, we'll get back to that Mentimeter presentation para tingnan natin mamaya yung kompletong result, ha? So, may problema ba kayo sa Mentimeter? Alright, okay lang kung nagtitipid. Alright, no compulsion. Kung nagtitipid, okay lang ha. Huwag pilitin. Meanwhile, balik tayo sa ating topic. Pinadala ko sa inyo. Ano yung topic natin? Ang topic natin ay about language. Nasaan na yun? Pinadala ko sa inyo. Ito, yan. Ang topic natin, language. Alright? Balik tayo dito, ha? Language. Technical definition of a language. Bakit technical? Kasi yung commonsensical definition ng language, halimbawa, alright? Ay, mali. Okay, tingnan nyo itong commonsensical definition ng language, ha? Common. Pag ginugol nyo, yun ang lalabas. Very common. Galing yan sa Oxford Dictionary. Yan, Oxford Dictionary, yan, nasa baba. Ano yung sinasabi? Language is the method of human communication, either spoken or written. Focus your attention on this expression, either spoken or written. Alright? Spoken or written. Yan ang commonsensical definition ng language. They always point out it's either spoken or written. Ibig sabihin, spoken, nadinig. Written, nakita. Sa totoo lang, pwede namang may language beyond what you can just see, beyond what you can just hear. Alright? Halimbawa, pagdating dun sa Braille, alam mo yung Braille? Alright? Yung Braille, anong ginagawa sa Braille? Ayan, Braille. Okay. Braille is a system of what? Is a system of language na ang ginagamit, sense of touch. Nakita nyo? Sige. Sense of touch. So, you can have a language in the form of what you can see or in the form of what you can hear and in addition, in the form of what you can feel. In fact, in principle, you can also communicate in the form of what you can smell. You have an entire industry on the basis of what you can smell. You know, you want to send some signal to your friend, yung iyong type na type. So, anong gagawin mo? Bili ka ng cologne or perfume o dagdagan mo pa ng pheromones kung gusto mo. And so, you communicate in that way. In fact, animals all over the globe, they communicate in terms of smell. All right? You can actually have a language in terms of smell. Ants have that. The moth can communicate in their language in terms of smell. And in addition, ano pa ba? What you can see, what you can hear, what you can touch, feel, and what you can smell, and also what you can taste. I already pointed out. All right, February 14, how do you communicate? Magbigay ka ng something sweet sa minamahal mo. Alright? Or kung galit na galit ka, bigyan mo siya ng pagkaasim-asim na mangga at saka pagka-anghang-anghang na sausawan and then sabihin mo, yan Yan ang simbolo ng ating pagsasama. Alright? So, we don't like commonsensical definitions of language. Ayaw natin yan. Ayaw natin yan. Ha? Ang gusto natin yung technical definition. That's the reason why here, alright, you can see language definition, technical definition. Alright? Yan ang interest natin. Now, understanding of how the ancient Greeks have considered knowledge requires understanding of the nature of language. Alright? Bakit? Remember, balik tayo sa mga Greeks. Anong sabi ng mga Greeks? Natatandaan nyo? Sabi ng mga Greeks, you have a mind. Alright? And your mind is a basket full of things. What are these things? Your thought. The thought that today the sun has risen from the east. Another thought, yesterday the sun has risen from the east. And another thought the day before yesterday. And so many days. And these are all thoughts in your mind. And on the basis of these thoughts you say, tomorrow when the sun rises, it rises from the east. And on the basis of that, you say, well, I can actually predict independent of the gods and the deities. May there be other tools? Maybe there are other tools. There are other tools with which I can explain and predict independent of the gods and the deities. And so, what happens? You end up with a mind full of these things. Things what? Expressed in sentences. Expressed in linguistic form. All right? Some sentence about your house. All right? Some sentence about your tree. All right? Some sentence about your pet kalabaw. You remember we were talking about these things? All right? And so, in a way, what you think in your mind reflects what happens in your universe. That's how the Greeks have thought. And what are these in your mind? Linguistic expressions. So before we can even see how we can have harmony, before we can even see how we can have harmony among our thoughts, remember? Harmony. Bago natin makita how we can have harmony among our thoughts in our minds, coherence, if you like, pag-aralan muna natin how we express each and every one of those things in our mind. Yan. Kaya ang interest natin ay language kasi precisely is through linguistic expressions that we get to have what the Greeks would call wisdom or knowledge. Now, alam natin, even an infant, alright, alam natin, even an infant can have knowledge independent of any language. Alright? Bata ka, wala ka pang alam na kahit anong word. You're an infant. Alright? Tandong ka sa crib mo. Yan, infant. Can you see that? But even an infant knows when to cry, when not to cry. Even an infant knows when he or she is hungry or not. And therefore will cry or not. Now, meron tayong genetic knowledge, genetic inheritance. Meron tayong genetic inheritance that are in the form of knowledge that is not linguistic. So, hindi naman natin sinasabing wala tayong knowledge na hindi linguistic. Alright, meron tayo niyan. Meron tayong knowledge na hindi linguistic, genetic in nature. However, most of what we have in our minds are not genetic at all, but rather linguistic. Alright? For all free-falling bodies, F equals ma. Alright? A squared plus B squared equals C squared. These are not genetic forms of knowledge. These are linguistic forms. So, interest natin, language. So, anong gagawin natin? Di punta tayo sa technical definition ng language ng klase. Excuse me. So, ito yung klase natin. For our purposes, meron tayong technical definition. Alright? Kasama sa exam to, 100%. In fact, up to the very last day of our classes. This will be important. Importante ito, maiksi lang, daling i-memorize. Pero even our understanding later of artificial intelligence, this would be important. So, saan galing ang ating technical definition? Eh di kay Mr. Okay, nakakalog-kalugin ko para mapansin nyo. Yan, si Mr. William P. Alston. Professor William P. Alston is, has been, although fairly recently, mamatay lang, medyo matanda na kasi yan, 90 plus na yata. He has been one of the more popular American Ivy League professors of philosophy, known all over the United States. And he has given us a very useful definition of what a language is. Meron akong kopya niyan, papadala ko sa inyo, nakalimutan ko lang. But I'll give you a copy of this paper. Language, galing sa Collier's Encyclopedia. So this is our technical definition. It's very simple. You can easily memorize this. Preferably memorize nyo, ha? Alright, so what's the definition? Language is a system of units realizable in some sensory medium, only certain combinations of which have meaning by convention, and hence useful for communication. Oh, big time, di ba? Maiksi lang. Alright, maiksi lang yan. Pero maraming ibig sabihin. In fact, kahapon, kinulang ako dun sa lecture ko ng oras just explaining this eh. Language is a system. O ano ibig sabihin yan? Alright? Galing kay William P. Alston yung ating. Supposing you have a system of units, ito, units of expressions na in the form of hieroglyphics ng mga Egyptian. Alright, maraming units yan. You put all those units into a single domain, you can have a system. Now, my question is, alright, so focus on the word system. So, what's the point? Well, you have a bunch of things, a pile, say a pile of numbers, all right? One number, another number, another number, another number, another number, another. Question, what's the difference between a mere pile of numbers, or bunch, if you like, on one hand, and a system? What's the difference? Sige nga. Alright, tignan natin. May sagot ba kayo dyan sa chat? What's the difference? System. File. Alright, what's the difference? May pagkakaiba ba yan? Simply a pile of numbers in a system of numbers? Anyone? Volunteer? I don't see any. Tingnan natin dito. Meron bang sumasagot din eh? Alright. Dito. Ay, wag dito. Yeah, dito kayo mag-comment ha sa ating link. Okay, dito. Comment dito. File, bunch, versus system. Alright, so you can either give me some response sa Google Classroom natin or dito sa chat. Ay, may nagsagot na pala eh. Daldal ako ng daldal. Sorry ha. Well, may connection po yung sa system. Tama, eksakto, and punto. Connection. Very good. Sanay na sanay ka talaga sa Facebook tsaka mga social media Mr. Adame. Miss Alonso. System, there is order. Oh, big word. Eksakto. Kayong dalawa galing. System must organize. Eksakto. Tama. Tama, Miss Alonso. Tama, Mr. Relampagos. Tama, Mr. Adame. Lahat yan. All of them. Connection. Dapat. Ano pa? Order. Dapat. Organization. Eksakto. Wala na akong kailangan. Kompleto na yan. Okay. I think dun po sa file ay more yung data lang po. Tama. Individually. Tama. Wala silang meaning. Kaya nagkaka-meaning, bakit? Kasi may connection. Tama. Tama. Miss Portada. Okay? Balik tayo din sa ating screen. Alright? Ganito po. Remember, ang sabi nga ni Pythagoras, kaya ang galing niyang LGBT niya na si Pythagoras. By the way, napakarami nating LGBT na dadaanan, ang laki ng utang natin. Kung wala yung marami yung mga yan, wala tayong information communication technology. Ano nga sabi ni Pythagoras? Kailangan may harmony eh. You can only talk of harmony if there are connections. Alright? That's one. Connections. Alright? You need to connect. Alright? Now, notice, when you connect one thing to another thing and another, what happens? When you connect, you get to see a pattern. Yan. A pattern. Yes. Another word for pattern is form. Alright? And form, another way of looking at form is some kind of a rule. What's the rule? When you have three angles or three sides, you have a triangle. That's the rule. Alright? So, we're looking at what we call patterns, forms, and rules. Now, when you have an entire set of rules, not only one or two or three or four, like the rules of physics, all right? An entire set of rules connected to one another, like for all free-falling bodies, F equals ma, all right? There is an increasing entropy as time goes by. Ano pa? Energy can never be destroyed. Mass can never be destroyed. And so on and so forth. The point is, when you have so many patterns or forms of rules coming together, you are going to have what you might call some kind of order or some kind of organization. Yan. Organization coming from the word organism. And what's an organism? It's composed of systems that are composed of organs, that are composed of tissues, that are composed of cells, that are composed of organelles, and that are composed of macromolecules, that are composed of, dami, bahala kayo sa buhay niyo. So, there you have it. When you have a system, you have order, you have organization, you have some rules involved, some forms involved, some patterns. Very good. Kompleto na tayo. Now, ano ngayon? Well, sa language, the rules are called, okay, everybody knows this, the rules are called grammar, rules of grammar. There you go. So imagine a system with order or organization, therefore having rules. And in a language, language is a system that has rules. What are the rules? They are rules of grammar. Now, sa language, ang rules ng grammar ay apat na klase. Yan, apat na klase. Bakit apat? Wala lang, gusto ko lang apat. Cute eh. Alright, rules of grammar, apat na klase. Alright, una. Notice that when you have one language like Filipino and another language like English and another language like Bahasa, you can have internal rules unique to them. Like for example, in English, sa English meron tayong internal rules involving tense. As in, tense, 20s, 30s, I'm just kidding. Tense. As in, past, present, future tense. Sa English, napaka-stricto, stringent ang rules, napaka-stringent ng rules when it comes to tense. In fact, sa ating mga taga-UP, pag may nakausap ka na mali lagi ang mga tense, hindi mo liligawan. O kung ikaw ang nililigawan, hindi mo sasagutin kasi bulok sa grammar, ayaw ko niyan. Hindi taga-UP yan. Taga-ano lang yan, university belt. Sorry, nagbibiro lang ako. Now, pagdating sa Filipino, alright, ano yung language natin? Filipino. Pagdating sa Filipino, importante ba ang tense? Importante. Kasing importante ba ng tense sa English ang tense sa Filipino? Hindi. In fact, sa Filipino, marami tayong expression na hindi mo malaman kung anong tense. Pwedeng past, present, future tense. Malabo. Alright, so dito, stringent. Dito, medyo alanganin. Lalo na sa bahasa. Pagdating sa bahasa, walang tense. No such thing as tense. So, when you move on from one language to another, what do you get? You get rules that are unique to the language. These rules that are unique to the language, we might as well describe them as somehow internal to the language. All right? And because we are bilinguals, hindi ko na dadaanin pa sa maraming paliwanag. Alam nyo na as bilinguals, you speak English and you speak Filipino, and some of you are even multilingual, swerte ninyo. Alam ninyo, when you translate from one language to another, there is gain or loss of meaning. Now, these internal rules, we call them rules of syntax. All right? Syntax. Rules of syntax. There you go. Importante yan. Excuse me. Now, however, hindi lang yan ang rules ng language. Hindi lang yan ang rules ng language like syntax, meron pa. Alright? Let's move on. Kasi halimbawa, ano nga ang sabi natin? Reflective method ang pamimilosopiya. Alright? Merong method of reflection tayo na unique sa philosophy. We seem to think that what we have in our minds reflect what we see in our world. So, meron kang puno dyan, remember the puno, and your pet kalabaw, remember the pet kalabaw, alright? Alright? Mukha bang kalabaw? Mas maganda yung drawing ko dati, no? Yan, mukhang kalabaw na to. Yan, alright? You have your pet kalabaw, and then you have your mountains over yonder, and your rice fields, and then your bahay kubo, all right, and your birds, and the bees, and the flowers, and the trees, they're all somehow reflected in your mind, all right? Yes, somehow reflected in your mind. Like your pet kalabaw, you have your expression kalabaw, all right? Like your pet, like your house, your expression house. In other words, we're saying, what you see of this world, there is some representation in your mind. What you see of this world, there is some reflection in your mind. All right, not a problem. And these things in your mind, you give them names. You say, this is kalabaw. You say, this is puno. You say, this is bahay. And so on and so forth. All right? So far, so good. Now, notice. Sabi natin kanina, may rules of syntax relating these things to one another in our minds. All right? Meron tayong syntax internal to the language. Language which we bear in our minds. All right? Now notice that this system of words and sentences in our minds reflect what we see of this world. What is this world? We call this the universe. What is this world? We call this the universe. All right? Or we simply call it our world. Notice that we are presuming that between our world, ito, all right, between our world here and our linguistic expressions here in our mind, merong connection. Tama ba? Ina-assume natin may connection. Yan, dalawa na yan, connected to one another. Ito, connected din eh. Alright? So, this whole thing, your world, is somehow connected to your linguistic expressions. Now, this connection, notice, goes beyond the domain of your linguistic expressions. We can therefore say, in a way, this involves something external to your system. What's your system? Your linguistic expressions. Here it is. This is your system, all right? That's your system. Your system of linguistic expressions is a system of its own. But then notice, there is another system. This system is governed by rules. Like, the rule is, planets move around the sun in some ellipse. Alright? Bakit? Cute kasi yung ellipse eh. Planets revolve around the sun in the form of ellipses. As a rule. As a rule, for all free-falling bodies, F equals ma. So, you have here two systems. 1, 2. Now, given these two systems, what's the assumption? The assumption is they are connected. These two systems are connected to one another. There is some kind of connection. All right? There is some kind of connection. That's what we're saying. This kind of connection is, of course, external to this system and external to this system. Whatever this is, we'll call that something that is semantic in nature. Ergo, balik tayo din sabi natin, meron tayong mga external rules in a manner of speaking. All right? I write that in quotation mark. External. Etong external rules na ito, connect your system, the language, to your world. We call this rules of semantics. Rules of semantics. Yan. Itong rules of semantics, together with your rules of syntax, o baliktarin natin, itong rules of syntax, 1, at rules of semantics, 2, sila ang ating necessary. Necessary components. Hirap magsulat nitong mouse. Alright, they are what we call our necessary components of our language. Without these two together, you do not have a language that is useful. Alright? For your language to be useful, for your language to be non-trivial, for your language to be non-trivial, alright, galawin natin hyphenated non-trivial with the hyphenation. Okay, anyway, for your language to be useful, non-trivial, you should have the necessary components, namely your syntax and your semantics. If your language only involves syntax, halimbawa, merong language na chess. In fact, ang chess, meron pa yung way of writing your expressions in chess, di ba? Yung syntax ng chess ay wala namang corresponding semantical rules. Hindi kayo nakakakita ng tao na sinasabi, yung rules ng chess ay may necessary connection sa mundo niya. Alright? May rules ang chess. Very good. May rules ang mundo natin. Meron ba yang presumed valuable necessary connection? Wala. Hindi kayo nakakakita ng tao na kung maglakad ganito. Papunta dyan, papunta doon. Papunta doon, papunta dyan. Papunta dito, papunta doon. Alright, you know what I'm talking about? Yung kabayo ng chess ay walang kinalaman sa buhay ng tao. Alright, mukha lang siyang kabayo, pero hindi siya kabayo na sasakyan or something. Anyway, if you have a language where you only know the syntax, for the most part, that language is only trivial to you. Trivial. Parang language ng language ng snakes and ladders. Language ng ano ba yung mga favorite games ninyo? Well, yan na nga, chess. Alright? So, kailangan merong syntax at merong semantics. Alright. Now, meron pang dagdag na rules. Yung dagdag na rules ng phonetics. And hindi ko ipapaliwanag to phonetics. Bakit? You've taken that up. Saan? Sa preschool. phonetics involves rules of pronunciation. Ano yung mga rules of pronunciation? A is for apple, B is for baboy, alright, C is for chicken, or whatever. C is for cat. Phonetics about pronunciation. You know that. And in addition to phonetics, meron pa tayong isa. Question. May tanong ako. Nakakita na ba kayo ng word na merong 10 syllables? Oh, big time, ano? 10 syllables. Meron. Bigyan ko kayo halimbawa. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Oh. Alright, I'm just kidding. Even better, question, meron bang word na may 10 syllables, all consonants? I doubt it. Wala siguro. 10 syllables, all consonants. Paano yan? Ang labo, di ba? Paano kung 10 word na may 10 syllables, all vowels? Meron yan. Balik tayo sa akin. Baka nami-miss nyo na ako eh. Have you ever seen a word with 10 syllables, all vowels? Oh, meron. Diba? Pag nagbabasa kayo ng DC Comics, saka Marvel Comics, merong building, nahulog dun sa top ng building. Oh, di ba? I'm just kidding. What's the point? Well, this is the point. You see, syllables are governed by rules. All right? Syllables are governed by rules. For example, among Asiatic languages, pwedeng single syllable can have meaning. That's one rule. Among Asiatic languages, a single syllable can have meaning. For example, in Filipino, you have the expression sok, as in sok-sok. All right? The single syllable sok can actually have a meaning. All right? And lie, as in lie, all right? That actually can have a meaning. A single syllable. So you end up with what? Suklay, all right? You end up with suklay. And you know what I'm talking about. But notice, when you talk of Indo-European languages, single syllables do not have meaning. Indo-European languages do not have meanings for single syllables. Very different, all right? So what are we saying? Syllables involve rules. Now, rules that involve syllables are called rules of morphology. Morphology. All right? Yikes. Naubusan na ako ng space. Morphology. Okay? For our purposes, ang importante lang ito. For our purposes, ang importante lang syntax and semantics. Pag-aaral ng logic and mathematics, ang concentration natin, syntax and semantics. In fact, sa logic at mathematics, wala tayong pakialam sa di ba? Pronunciation, you know that. Among other things that you can notice. Alright, so what are the rules that govern grammar? You have the rules of syntax, rules of semantics, rules of phonetics, and rules of morphology. Alright? These rules are going to be important to us, but we'll get back to them later. Meanwhile, let's get back to our technical definition of a language. So language is a system. Naku, naloko na. We have already spent so much time talking about what a system is. Nandito pa lang tayo. Alright, what are the units of any given language? The units of any given language are called terms. You remember in arithmetic or mathematics at large, when you talk of terms, yes, separated by the symbol plus or the symbol minus, all right? In a language, the basic units of a language are called terms. All right. Now, there are many kinds of terms. Because there are many kinds of languages. Some languages are called natural languages, all right? So with natural languages, the terms are called words. Some languages are technical, like your computer languages, all right? Technical languages, like your computer languages. In computer languages, what are the words called? They are not called words, they are called bytes. They are called bytes. If you look at mathematics as a language, then you get to come across numbers. All right? In mathematics, numbers are what you call your terms. So terms is your genetic expression for the basic unit of a language. Terms, your generic expression for your different kinds of units with your different kinds of languages. So what are numbers? They are terms. What are numbers? Terms. Bytes are terms. Words are terms. All right? There you go. Language is a system of terms. And guess what? These terms are what? Realizable in some sensory medium. All right? Get back to this. Realizable in some sensory medium. We were already saying we are not interested in only what you can see and what you can hear. We're interested in everything that you can sense with your five senses. Realizable in some sensory medium. What does that mean? Which goes back to our Mentimeter discussion. What does that mean? Realizable in some sensory medium. You see, if you can sense it, all right, what's the word sense? And how many kinds of senses do we have? 5. Any one of them, all right, we can do with any one of them, and then you can have a language. Very good. Guess what? If you can sense them, that means you can observe. Because to observe, by definition, is to sense. All right? You can observe. But if you can observe, that means what? What you observe is physical, is material. And that was what I was harping about earlier with our Mentimeter presentation. You lose your tool, all right? This is the key word. Your terms you can sense. Your terms are observable. Therefore, by definition, your terms are physical material tools that you use. All right? Vengarium leviosa. Po tayo na sa sini lang yun. Tools that what? You can use. Like your pair of shoes. Like your pens and your notebooks. And even when you play your games, what are your games? Your Mobile Legends. What are your games? Your vegetables versus the zombies. Remember, with your game, working against the zombies, you have tools. You know, your cabbage and your petchay and your carrots. Remember, you have tools when you play your game. What's your game? What's your game? Your Mobile Legends. What are your tools? Your sword, your arrows, your axe, all right? Your horse. You have tools. Similarly, your words, your numbers, your bytes are to your tools, all right? You are the lords of your tools. You're in charge, all right? Now, let me call your attention to a movie. What's the movie? This is the movie. Johnny Got His Gun. It was a favorite movie of mine. It's actually a novel. All right? It's actually a novel written in 1939. Oh, here it is. Written in 1939. All right? This is the novel. All right? Can you see that? Johnny Got His Gun. That's the novel. Now, what am I talking about? Well, let me see. If you have time, this is optional. This is optional. If you have time, try to see this movie. It's an award-winning movie, actually. Where is it? Oh my God. Did I put it here? Slides, lecture. Oh, here it is. Okay, I'll post this on our board. Hope you get to see it. But if you don't have time and kung nagtitipid kayo ng data nyo, huwag nyo panoodin. Okay lang. This is much better than Cobra Kai. Grabe yung Cobra Kai na yan. Pinupuyat ako niyan. Alright, that's the movie. Alright, that's the link. What's the movie all about? Alright, has something to do with what we're talking about. Alright, this is the movie. Alright, based on this novel. That's the novel, as you can see. And this is the movie. Anti-war film, alright? It's an award-winning film. Let me describe the movie. Let me describe the novel. Alright, here it is. I'm highlighting it. Alright, John Bonham, a young American soldier hit by an artillery shell during World War I, lies in a hospital bed. He may have been under comatose for a while. He is a quadruple amputee. He loses his arms, both his arms from his shoulders. He loses both his legs from his hips. All right, so a quadruple amputee who has also lost his eyes and his ears and his mouth and his nose. Bakit? Kasi they had to perform surgery that they had to take his nose off and his jaw together with his tongue, but he was kept alive. And so, he wakes up from his comatose. Alright, as he drifts between reality and fantasy. Why? Remember, if you don't have eyes and you don't have ears, maybe you can smell a bit and you cannot talk. What happens? You wake up from your comatose, you don't see anything. You don't hear anything. And so, you might actually feel, oh, I'm dead. I have actually died from bombing by the enemy. And then you wake up, and then, but then you get to understand after several days, maybe a week or more, that, wait, I am not dead. I am in a hospital. And so it takes you several days, maybe weeks on end, to find out I am not dead, I am not in hell, I'm in a hospital. Then you finally conclude, all right, I am alive. Next question, am I awake or am I asleep? And so it takes you another several days, another maybe week or so, and finally you conclude, well, this is the time when I'm awake and this is the time when I'm asleep. And then you finally realize, oh my God, I may have lost my eyes, my ears, my arms, my legs. What am I going to do? What kind of life is this? And so it's a torture. It's a torturous time for you. And so you finally wish that they will put you to death. They will allow you to die a natural death. You know, don't feed me, don't give me water. Just let me die, because I don't want to live like this. Next question. If you are in that kind of situation, how do you tell anyone, please let me die? Or maybe it's the other way around. You love God so much, and with your prayers, as you are in your deep thought alone, you see the goodness of God. And so you tell everyone, oh, you're not feeding me anymore. Oh, you're not giving me any drink anymore. You're actually allowing me to die. Oh my God, I want to serve God even in my situation, grim situation. I am happy. So, putang ina nyo, wag nyo pabayaang mamatay. Two questions. Either one, you want to die, please let me die. Or two, please don't let me die. How do you tell anyone that under such a situation? That's what the novel is all about. That's what the movie is all about. Guess what? Paano natapos yung nobela? Paano natapos yung sine? Bahala kayo sa buhay niyo. Panoodin yung sine. Secret. There you go. Johnny Got His Gun, award-winning movie. Now, the message is, in the absence, all right, what's the message? In the absence of any physical, material, all right? Remember, in the absence of any physical, material, all right, your terms. What are your terms, as we have pointed out? Your terms are realizable in some sensory medium. Your terms are physical, material in nature. In the absence of some physical medium, you don't communicate anything. You have no language. That's what I'm saying. All right? Let's move on. All right? So, language is a system of units realizable in some sensory medium. All right? Next point. Ano yung next point? Only certain combinations of which have meaning by convention. All right? Ito. Only certain combinations of which have meaning by convention. Ano ibig sabihin niya? Well, siyempre, kaya ako tinatanong, nagpapaliwanag na naman ako. So, you have a term. And what's your term? It's a tool. This is your term. All right? You have a term. It's a tool that you want to use. With your term, you have a meaning for your term. That's why it is useful for you. All right? So you have a meaning for your term. And because you have a meaning for your term, it's useful for you. Next question. How can you describe the connection or the relationship between your meaning and your term? All right? Because we are saying they are connected. Yes. They are connected. They are related to one another. What kind of a connection is there? All right? Supposing you have a triangle. All right? Supposing you have a triangle. All right, so triangle. And what do we know of triangles? All right? Well, you know that if this angle changes in magnitude, then this angle will change in magnitude. Yes. And you know, if this angle changes in magnitude, then this angle here will change in magnitude. Yes. The relationship, the connection between your angles in any triangle is what? We can describe it as functional. We can describe it as mathematical. Agree? There you go. All right. Do you remember your trigonometry? And how exciting life was with trigonometry, di ba? Exciting. Ano ba yung mga pinag-uusapan ninyo? Sine, cosine, tangent, cotangent. Remember? Exciting, di ba? Functions. Question. Is the relationship between a term and its meaning functional or mathematical? Well, I can guess what you're going to say. Of course not. It's not functional nor mathematical. All right. Agree. Tingnan natin mga comments ninyo. Nye! Share screen. Nakakainis naman, no? Haba-haba na ng kinuwento ko. Alright, Mr. Morales, although nadidinig niyo naman ang sinasabi ko. Mr. Morales, saan tayo huling nag-share ng screen? Buti na lang, chinek natin, ano? Anyone tell me? Okay, malayo na ba? But anyway, nadidinig niyo naman yung aking lecture. Okay, we'll go back to our screens. Alright? Share ng screen. Makakainis. Ang hirap talaga na walang director eh. Isa-isahin natin, ha? Balik tayo dito. This is what I was talking about. I was talking about external rules. What are the external rules? You remember? You have your world, your universe, governed by, you have your world, your universe, governed by your rules of physics, for example, or chemistry or biology. And this world of your universe is connected to your world of your language. And so the connection involves rules. We call them external rules. Ergo, we call them rules of semantics. There you go. Alright? So, sabi natin, importante sa language na meron tayong hindi lang rules of syntax. Importante sa language na meron tayong hindi lang rules of syntax, meron din tayong rules of semantics. Alright? Importante yan. Syntax and semantics. Sabi natin, ano yung syntax? Internal rules, external rules, yung semantics. Syntax, internal, external rules, semantics. Alright? Ano pa yung pinag-usapan natin? Nire-review lang natin, just in case, para sigurado. Alright? Ang sabi rin natin, when you have a term, you can sense it. Yes? It's not only a system, your language, it is a system of what? Things called terms that you can sense. And if you can sense them, you can observe them. And if you can observe them, they are physical material. If they are physical material, then that means they are tools. Alright? Tools that you can use. Alright? You know that. Pinag-usapan na natin kanina. Alright? Dinagdagan lang natin ng imagery. Alright? So, what are your terms? They are nothing magical. They are simply tools like your pens and your shoes and your notebooks. Alright? Your slippers. Alright? And your terms, as we have said, are what? Okay, ito na nga. Okay, there are many kinds, as we have said. And your terms are related to some meaning. And that's where we are now, alright? Your terms, here it is, your terms related to some meaning. And we were saying earlier, when you have a triangle like this, you know that the angles of a triangle, say this angle, are related to one another. How? Functionally or mathematically. For example, if this angle here, inuulit lang natin, changes in magnitude, then this angle here will change in magnitude, yes? And if this angle here changes in magnitude, then this angle here changes in magnitude. This kind of relationship between the angles of any given triangle, we have said, can be described as functional or mathematical. Now we ask the question, can you describe the relationship between a term and its meaning as functional or mathematical? And we are now saying, no, we doubt it. It cannot happen. All right? At least the way we know it, they say the word table, related to a specific object table, the relationship is not functional or mathematical. You know, table for them, papag for others, mesa for others, and panggatong for our janitor. All right? So far, so good. So let's get back to that. So you have a term, and it's somehow related to a meaning. And we're asking the question, so how is a term related to a meaning? All right, your term, and then your meaning. How is a term related to your meaning? Yan ang tanong. All right, yan ang tanong. Paano ngayon? All right. Hindi siya mathematical, hindi siya functional. Imagine a mother. All right, a mother. Kahirap mag-drawing ng mothers. All right, that's your mom. And a child. All right, that's your child. All right, imagine a mother and a child. All right? Somehow we know the mother is related to the child. And how do we describe the relationship? We can describe the relationship as natural. All right? Or if you like, biological. That's how we may describe the relationship between a mother and a child. Question: is the relationship between a term and its meaning biological or natural? Of course not. And so we say, hindi pwede. So, anong nangyari sa atin? Sabi natin, anong sabi natin? Hindi naman mathematical, hindi naman functional, hindi naman natural, hindi naman biological. Eh, putang ina, ano ba yung relationship na yan? So, pardon the expression na, sa Batangas kasi ang lupit ng ng mga dila doon eh. Doon ako lumaki. Term and meaning. So, how are they related? All right? Now, let's go talk about Inuits. Alam niyo ba yung Inuits? Yung mga Inuits, yan yung mga indigenous people ng North Pole. All right? Ng ano pa? Ng Sweden. Ng ano pa? Ng Finland. Ng ano pa? Ng Greenland. All right? Normally, ang tawag natin sa kanila yan, Greenland. Sa cartoons, ang tawag natin sa kanila mga Eskimo. Yan. Guess what? Yung mga Eskimo, when they talk about snow, they talk about snow in more than 200 ways of calling snow, snow. More than 200. Dami, no? Sa Pilipinas, in the Philippines, all right, Philippines, we only have what? Snow, syempre. Ano pa? Ice. Ano pa? Yellow. Ano pa? Niebe. At the most, 4 lang naiintindihan ko eh. O, 1, 2, ice, 3, yellow, 4, niebe. Di ba? No comparison tayo sa 200 ng mga Inuits. Eh bakit? Eh yung mga Inuits kasi, for their survival, they have to know many kinds of snow. If you walk on this kind of snow, then you're in danger. Baka yan guguho na sa avalanche. So you should know that. Eh sa atin, wala namang snow eh. Hindi masyadong... Importante lang sa atin yung snow pagka summer, pagka merong halo-halo tayong pinag-uusapan. Otherwise, hindi importante. Pero pagdating naman sa bigas, pardon the expression, pag bigas, sa Pilipinas, we have more than 2,000 ways calling rice. 2,000. Anong 200? Ito, 2,000. Pero yung Inuit, tanungin mo yung Inuit, anong ibig sabihin ng bigas o rice? Sasabihin niya, ano ba yan? Palaman sa tinapay. Alright? So, meron tayong pagkakaiba given the different situation. Alright? Noong unang panahon ni Jose Rizal. Alright, share ko to. Panahon ni Jose Rizal, sino yung kanyang contemporary na mga artist? Si Paul Gauguin. Si Paul Gauguin, best friend ni Vincent van Gogh. Si Paul Gauguin at Vincent van Gogh, ganyan ang itsura. Bakit ganyan ang itsura? Anong tawag sa ganyang itsura? The expression for that kind of look is called bohemian. Meaning. Alright, what do you mean by bohemian? A bohemian is a socially unconventional person. Noong 1800s, if anyone wanted to describe you as a socially unconventional person, say for example, this fellow, ibang itsura, ibang klase, you'll be called a bohemian. Socially unconventional bohemian. Bakit bohemian? Kasi sa Bohemia, may mayaman na babae at sabi niya, kayong mga pobre, kawawa namang mga artist kagaya ni Paul Gauguin at Vincent van Gogh na walang bumibili na inyong paintings. Dito kayo tumira sa akin, sa aking hacienda. At doon sa hacienda, well actually baroness. Yung Bohemia is a region, an entire region she owned. And sabi niya, I'll give you stipend I'll give you a place to stay, I'll give you everything that you need, your food and material so that you can do your art. And so lahat ng artist pumunta doon. Eh, mga artist, ibang klase itsura, di ba? Pag pumunta nga kayo sa College of Fine Arts, ibang klase itsura noon no? Doon mga tao. Yung buhok nga doon ng mga kilala ko, parang pag pinatakan ng butike, mamamatay. Tapos yung mga mukha ko, nung mga tusok-tusok, di ba? Ayan ang itsura ni Paul Gauguin, ganyan din ang itsura ni Vincent van Gogh. Ang tawag sa kanila, Bohemian. Pero a generation later, yung mga ibang klase, unconventional ang kanilang itsura, ito na ang itsura nila. Anong itsura nila? Ayan. Although ito is stylized, yung sumunod na generation ni F. Scott Fitzgerald, generation ni Ernest Hemingway, maganda ang music scene sa France. Bakit? Kasi yung mga African-American musicians, pinapatay sa Amerika kasi sabi ng mga puti sa Amerika, yan music of the devil. Yang mga African-Americans na yan, gumagawa ng music of the devil, pinapatay. So ang ginawa, pumunta sa France. Sa France, maganda ang music scene, maganda ang scene for the artist. Kagaya nino ni Picasso, kagaya nino ng mga novelist, kagaya ni Ernest Hemingway at saka F. Scott Fitzgerald. So, dahil pumupunta sila doon, maganda ang music, etc., enjoy sila, nagiinuman sila sa mga bar. Eh kaso, pag nagiinuman sa mga bar, tinatamad na mag-inuman, mas maganda kasi ang tama nung mga imported material na galing dun sa mga colonies ng France, papunta ng France, ang tawag hashish, ang tawag marijuana. At pagka yan hinitit ninyo, wow man, ang ganda ng tama ng music. Kaya naka-shades yan. And then dahil nasa France, kaya yan naka-beret. At dahil mahilig sa music, lagi may dalang bongo or gitara. In fact, corny pa nga itong picture na ito. Usually naka-dungarees, and then naka-chaleco lamang, and then yan, may goatee, and so on and so forth. Unconventional ang ugali nila. Parang sino? Parang si Picasso. Parang si Ernest Hemingway. And these artists, with their Nobel Prize-winning works, ay unconventional na ugali. Ang tawag sa kanila, beatniks. Alright? This is the word. Beatniks. Bakit beatniks? Kasi mahilig sa music. And dahil mahilig sa music, mahilig sa beat. Sinasabi na, it's the beat, man. It's the beat. It's the rhythm, man. It's the rhythm. Alright? Parang, wow, man. It's the beat, man. It's the rhythm, man. Yeah, man. Yan. Kaya beatniks ang tawag. So, dati, Bohemian, naging beatniks. Nung dumating naman ang panahon, generation ko na. Ang generation ko, galit kami sa nuclear war. Kamuntik na magunaw ang mundo kasi nag-away si John F. Kennedy at saka si Khrushchev. Magbobombahan na yung kanilang mga barko. 12 kilometers na lang ang difference, kamuntik na. And then, nakita namin yung ating environment nasisira, yung mga ilog, for example, sa New Orleans, nasusunog, ilog nasusunog dahil sa pollution. So, pinauso ng generation namin mga kanta ng mga pro-environment. Nagpasimula kami ng Earth Day. At ganito naman ang itsura namin. Unconventional din. Ang aming mga pantalon, kagaya nitong nakikita ninyo, parang pangwalis ng karsada. Yung aming mga pantalon, ang baba-baba ng hips, akala mo malalaglag na yung aming mga salwal. Ang tawag doon sa mababang hips, hipster, kasi nasa hips mo na. Hipster, and yung mga hipster lagi ang suot namin, kaya ang tawag sa amin, hippies. Hippies na nagsimula ng flower power. Naku, alam niyo ba kung ano itsura na ako'y hippie Ayan ang itsura ko, yan, nakita niyo ako sa gitna. Buti nga yan Dati may tali pa ako sa buhok. Yung tali ko sa buhok, ganito. Tapos may bulaklak pa ako, may pendant ako na pagkalaki-laki. Yung pendant ko, parang pag nadapa ako, hindi na ako makakabangon. Ang tawag sa amin, hippies. Later on, yung mga hippies, ang tawag na, mga punk. Later on, yung mga punk, ang tawag na, mga hip-hops. Alright, and then ngayon, sa Pilipinas, ang tawag sa amin, mga jeprox, kasi pag bumibili kami ng damo, hindi yung damong kinakain ng kabayo, Yung damong alam nyo na, bibili kami ng damo sa Project 7, Project 6, Project 8, ang tawag namin Jack Pro. Tapos yung nakikita namin mga tao doon, ibang ang klaseng itsura, ganito nga ang klaseng itsura nila. So ang tawag namin mga Jeprox, kaya merong expression Jeprox. And then yung Jeprox ngayon, ang tawag nyo na jumping jologs at kung ano-ano. So what are we saying? Your term nagbabago kaya kagaya din from what? From bohemian to beatnik to what? To hippie, to punk, to Jeprox, to hip-hop, to jumping jologs. Pag nagbago ang konteksto ng buhay, nagbago ang panahon, ano nagbabago? Context. Nagbabago yung context across time. So, nagbabago yung what is useful and what is not. So, yung useful sa mga Inuits, given their context, hindi useful sa mga Pinoy. Bakit useful sa kanila? Kasi nagkakaintindihan sila. So, they come together as communities ng Inuits, coming from the word convere, meaning to say to come together and agree, we have the expression conventional. We convene. Alright? What are we saying? Yung relationship between the term and its meaning is what? Is conventional. That's the word. Alright? It is conventional, agreed upon, so that it becomes useful as a matter of communication. Now, next point, hindi lang siya conventional, that's how we describe the relationship between a term and its meaning. We're also going to say the relationship between a term and its meaning is what? Arbitrary. Why arbitrary? Arbitrary because hindi naman kayo nakapili kung saan mag-develop yung inyong culture. Nag-develop saan? Sa maraming snow. Nag-develop saan? Sa walang snow. Nag-develop saan? Panahon ni Jose Rizal. Nag-develop saan? Panahon ni Khrushchev at John F. Kennedy. Panahon ng Panahon ninyo ngayon, jumping jologs. And ergo, you end up somewhere with your own culture that is unique, with your own situation, your own context, whim of nature. So, the relationship between a term and its meaning is on one hand, conventional, and on the other hand, arbitrary. There you go. So, what is a language? A language is a system of units, realizable in some sensory medium, only certain combinations of which have meaning by convention, and hence, useful for communication. Ayan. And hence, useful for communication. Ulitin natin nawala na naman yung ating screen. Nakakainis. Alright? Ulitin natin. Anong sabi natin? We end up saying what? Hindi ko na naipakita sa inyo. We end up saying what? At some point in time, ito ang itsura ni Paul Gauguin. Alright, Bohemian. Ganyan ang itsura niya. Later on, yung Bohemian, ang tawag natin beatniks. Ayan. Later on, yung beatniks, anong tawag natin? Hippies. Later on, yung hippies, anong tawag natin? Punk. Ako nga, later on, yung punk, anong tawag natin? Hip-hops. Sila yan, mga unconventional lang itsura. Later on, yan na nga, ang tawag sa amin, Jeprox. Ayan ako, nasa gitna. Can you see that? Alright? And anong sabi natin? Whether among the Inuits, mga Eskimo, or among Filipinos, Eskimo, 200 ways of calling snow, snow. Filipino, 4 lang of calling snow, snow. Nagbabago kasi yung context. Nagbabago alin? Nagbabago ang context, nagbabago ang situation across time. Ayan. Sabi nga natin, context. So, depende sa context, merong agreement, merong kanyang culture. Agreement as a matter of convention. We agree as a matter of convention. That's what we're saying. And when we agree, therefore we say this term will mean this term. So the relationship between a term and its meaning is a matter of agreement. But also, it's a matter of arbitrariness. Bakit? Kasi yung culture mo, by accident, doon lang napunta. By accident of nature. So on one hand, the relationship between a term and its meaning is a matter of convention. And so therefore, our definition, what's our definition? A language is a system of units realizable in some sensory medium, only certain combinations of which, yan have meaning by convention. All right? There you go. Now, and hence, finally, useful for communication. All right? Useful for communication. Can you see it? Okay. Now, sino sa inyo ang hindi tao? Ang hindi Homo sapiens sapiens with 26 alleles. Tama ba? 23 alleles and 46 pairs. 46, 23 pairs. Alright? Ano yung tanong ko? Sino sa inyo ang hindi human? Bakit? Kasi, guess what? Humans are genetically endowed. Alright? Genetic to wield language. Our capacity to wield language is genetic. Saka na natin pag-usapan yan. Dahil it is genetic, I don't have to explain to you what we mean by communication. All of you know what it means to communicate by nature. Why? I'll tell you about it later, but this is the point. All right, communication is your primary function for a language. It is the most important function of a language. Let me repeat, primary. Why primary? Because it is the most important function of a language, communication. Guess what? There are other important but not equally important. There are other important but not equally important functions of language. We call them secondary functions. Secondary functions. Ano yung secondary functions? One, notice na sa UP, nung pumasok kayo, ang daming questions rather sa UPCAT about what? Word meanings. Tama, mali? Word meanings. Marami. Bakit? Kasi ito po ang pangyayari. Alright? Bakit maraming word meanings sa UPCAT? Kasi alam natin, pag maraming words na alam ang isang tao, ulitin natin pag maraming words na alam ang isang tao, marami, ang kanyang IQ mataas. Ulitin natin, alam natin, may data tayo dyan, pag maraming words na alam, word meanings, mataas ang IQ. Conversely, pag kokonti ang words na alam, mababa ang IQ. Kaya, ang tinatanggap lang natin, pag kumuha ng exam sa UP sa UPCAT, yung maraming words na alam. Ergo, the word meaning questions. Bakit? Kasi, ito yung isang secondary functional language. It facilitates, alright? It facilitates thinking. Sulat nyo facilitates thinking. Nakakapag-isip naman kayo without language. Kaya lang, mas nafa-facilitate na makapag-isip with language. Alam na natin yan, pinag-uusapan na nga natin When you reflect upon your world, you have to have many words. Alright? Okay. Next, ang ikalawang secondary functional language ay related dun sa inyong unang secondary function. Alright? Related. Ano yung unang secondary function? Ang una, one, facilitates thinking. Guess what? Kung anong napapag-isipan nyo, yun din ang nakikita ninyo. Therefore, language also facilitates perception. Red, the color red. Anong sabi ng iba sa inyo? Well, maraming klase ng red. Ano yung maraming klase ng red? Merong crimson, merong ox blood red, merong maroon, merong dragon blood red, and so on and so forth. Merong ruby red, and well, ilan na nabanggit ko. Pero sa ibang tao, pag sinabing red, isa lang, pula. Tapos ano pa? Pula nga. Alright? Manood kayo ng MMA. Alright? Ano yung MMA? Well, bloody games. Mixed martial arts. Pag may mixed martial arts, maraming klase ng sipa. Ano yung maraming klase ng sipa? May axe kick, may 45, may turning side, alright? May roundhouse. The point is, pagka kayo ay maraming words, marami kayong nakikita. Ay, nakita mo, wow, ang galing ng axe kick niya, ang ganda ng timing. Wow, ang roundhouse niya, ibang klase, ang bilis. Wow, lalo na yung kanyang turning side. Pero kung wala kayo ng terms na yon, hindi mo nakikita. Therefore, ano sasabihin mo lang, ay siya magaling. Bakit? Nanalo eh. Bakit nanalo? Magaling nga eh. Bakit nga magaling? Nanalo nga eh. Mamaya, suntukan na kayo. So, language not only facilitates thinking, it also facilitates perception. At hindi lang natapos yan. Halimbawa, alam natin the world is round. Question, paano mo nalaman the world is round? Nakalabas ka na ba ng Earth? Naloko na. Hindi ka pa nakakalabas ng Earth. Ikaw ba anak ng tatay mo? Are you the sons and daughters of your parents? How do you know? Well, you know by what? By the knowledge of other people. Sinabi sa'yo ng tatay mo, sinabi sa'yo ng kapatid mo, sinabi sa'yo ng lola mo, sinabi sa'yo ng professor mo, the world is round. Alright? Thanks to language, we can transfer and accumulate knowledge better. Transfer and accumulate knowledge better. Ergo, make civilization possible. Yung inyong genetic inheritance ay kokonti lang ang possibility. Bakit? Yung isang chromosome can only carry as much as 10,000 characters of information. 10,000, that's it. Guess what? Sa English, you have 1.5 million terms. 1.5 million terms. Malaking diferensya sa 10,000 characters. Alright? Yung Wikipedia, you have, kung di ako nagkakamali, ang Wikipedia ay merong something like 27 million pages of words. Salamat sa language, this is now the other possibility. We can transfer and accumulate knowledge like cannot be repeated without language. I think you know that. Alright, so language is a system of units realizable in some sensory medium, only certain combinations of which have meaning by convention and hence useful for communication. Pasensya na po ha, sumobrang daldal tapos nawala pa yung ating sharing ng screen. I hope I can do better next time. Please give me your comments if you have to give me, if you want to share with your classmates dito sa ating YouTube or sa ating Google Classroom chat. Maraming salamat po, magandang umaga, pasensya na po. Salamat din sa inyong pasensya. End of broadcast. Hopefully next time